Hello, my friends. My name is Arya, and I come from a small village. Today, I want to share my journey of learning English and how I met an amazing teacher who changed my life. It's a sunny summer day, and I am on a train. Two women are sitting across from me, talking in English. I can only understand a little because I am still a beginner. I've started learning English, but my vocabulary is small. Feeling brave, I speak to the women using some simple English words. They understand me, and I feel so happy. I tell them that I want to learn English. They smile and tell me they are from England, returning home from a conference. We talk for about 10 minutes, and I enjoy every moment. When the train stops at my station, I say goodbye. Before I leave, the women give me their address and phone number, inviting me to visit them in England. I wave goodbye with excitement and hope. After meeting these women, I feel inspired to improve my English. Every day, I translate short texts, watch English movies, and practice speaking. In 6 months, my English becomes much better, but I still want to learn more. So, I decide to go to London to study. When I arrive, I join an English school, and my first lesson is on Monday. In the classroom, I meet a kind and young teacher along with other students from different countries. We introduce ourselves and talk about where we are from. The teacher smiles and asks us how we currently study English. Then she shares an interesting method to learn English that is fun and effective. She says we don't need to spend hours reading textbooks or memorizing grammar rules. Instead, the best way to learn is to use English as much as possible. This idea excites me because I don't enjoy studying grammar or reading heavy books. Our teacher explains that languages are meant for communication. To improve, we should focus on using the language to express our thoughts and understand others. In her course, we will talk a lot and practice speaking every day. She also says that many students make the mistake of only learning words and grammar without using them in real conversations. Our lesson continues, and we discuss our hobbies and free time activities. We talk in pairs, and also with the teacher. The class is fun, and I feel confident because I am using English instead of just studying it. This method is simple, enjoyable, and so effective. I feel really happy with my decision to learn in this way. This is just the beginning of my exciting English learning journey. How I learn words. On Tuesday, I go back to school, excited for the lesson. During class, one of the students asks an interesting question. What is the best way to learn new words? Our teacher smiles and explains that there are many ways to do this, but reading is one of the most effective methods. She says, if you read every day, even for just 30 minutes, you can learn faster than those who don't. She advises us to choose books or texts that we find interesting. It could be a fun story, something related to our hobbies, or a topic we enjoy. Don't pick a book that feels boring, she says. She also tells us that it's helpful to read something where we already know many of the words. However, when we see a word we don't understand, we should look it up in a dictionary and continue reading. Our teacher emphasizes that we don't need to write down every new word or try to memorize it immediately. The key is to focus on understanding the overall meaning of the text. She explains that by reading regularly, we can see how words are used in sentences and how they connect with each other. This helps us learn naturally. It's a simple but powerful method, she adds. After the reading discussion, the class moves on to talking about life in England and the best jobs for students. This topic grabs my attention because I want to find a job while studying. I ask some classmates for advice, and they suggest visiting a job center. After school, I head straight to the job center. I don't know what kind of work I can do, so I ask a kind lady there for guidance. She tells me they have a few jobs suitable for students. She suggests working as a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I tell her that I've never done such jobs before, but she assures me that the training is simple and my English is good enough to work in a cafe. The lady says I can start my job on Thursday. I feel so happy because this is a great opportunity to practice English while earning money. I am excited to begin. If you want to learn new words quickly, remember what my teacher said. Read for 30 minutes every day. Reading not only helps you learn new vocabulary, but also shows you how to use words correctly in sentences. Try it, and you'll see the difference. How I improve my pronunciation. On Wednesday, I go to school as usual. In our class, there is a student from South Korea who is quieter than the others. When the teacher asks if anyone has questions, he raises his hand. He shares that he struggles with pronunciation. Even though he reads books and watches English movies and understands them well, he feels unsure about speaking because he doesn't like the way his words sound. Hearing this, our teacher smiles and says, "Don't worry. Pronunciation is something you can improve with practice. Let me teach you a simple and effective technique that can help." She explains that one reason students face problems with pronunciation is that they use the muscles in their mouths the same way they do in their native language. This makes their English pronunciation sound different. The teacher reassures us, saying, "It's completely normal for students learning English to have some accent or mispronunciations. The important thing is to work on it regularly. There's a technique called shadowing that can make a big difference." She continues, "Shadowing is easy and fun. All you need to do is listen carefully to how native speakers talk and repeat after them, just like children do when they learn to speak. Start with videos or recordings that are slow and clear. Copy every word and sound you hear. Over time, your pronunciation will improve a lot." To demonstrate, the teacher opens YouTube and finds a video explaining shadowing. We watch the video and then try shadowing for 3 minutes. It feels a bit strange at first, but it's fun. The teacher also tells us, this technique is especially helpful when preparing for presentations. Practicing for 10 minutes in a quiet place can greatly improve your confidence and clarity. I find this lesson fascinating because I've never heard of shadowing before. After class, I go to the school reception and ask if there are any sports activities. The receptionist informs me that there's a football team with training at 5 p.m. today. Excited, I joined the practice and met players from all around the world: Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. The training is enjoyable, and I feel grateful for my time in England. I'm learning new things, making friends, and improving my skills. If you want better pronunciation, remember to listen and repeat after native speakers. It's the best way to learn. How I practice speaking. On Thursday, I attend school again, and we have a new student in our class named Maria, who is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, our teacher greets Maria warmly and asks her a few questions. The teacher already knows Maria because she joined a beginner-level class here one summer for 2 weeks. When Maria starts speaking, her English is clear, fluent, and impressive. Her pronunciation is excellent, and it's obvious she has worked hard on her skills. The teacher compliments her, saying, "Your English is beautiful, Maria. It seems your school in Italy is excellent." To our surprise, Maria replies, "I didn't attend school. I learned at home using the techniques you taught me last year. I practice reading, shadowing, and a method called thinking aloud. I also try to think in English instead of my native language, Italian. Those 2 weeks in your class were the foundation for everything. You showed me how to work on my English every day, and that's why I'm back. I want to learn more from you." The teacher beams with pride and thanks Maria for her dedication. Listening to this, I become curious about the thinking aloud technique, which I've never heard of before. I raise my hand and ask, "What is thinking aloud? Can you teach us how to do it?" The teacher smiles and explains, "Thinking aloud is a very effective way to improve your English. It may feel a bit strange at first, but it works wonders if you're motivated. Here's how it works. We usually think in our native language all day, but with this technique, you begin thinking in English instead. Once you get the hang of it, you say your thoughts out loud. This way, you practice forming sentences and speaking naturally." Intrigued, I ask, "Why is it so effective?" The teacher suggests, maybe Maria can share her experience. Maria nods and begins. At first, thinking aloud felt unusual. I started with very simple sentences like, I can speak English, or I need to practice daily. The biggest challenge was simplifying my thoughts because Italian is more complex. But after some practice, it became easier, and I started thinking directly in English. One day, I met a tourist from Australia, and we had a conversation in English. My sentences were short and simple, but I realized I didn't need to translate from Italian to English in my head anymore. That moment boosted my confidence. From then on, I used the thinking aloud technique every day, and it transformed my speaking skills. Maria's story inspires me. I decided to try thinking aloud, determined to improve my fluency just like her. With techniques like reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud, I feel excited about becoming better at speaking English. How I learn grammar. After school, I head to the cafe where my job training begins. I feel nervous because I have no prior experience, and I don't know what to expect. When I arrive, I'm pleasantly surprised. The cafe is modern and serves coffee, tea, chocolate cakes, and sandwiches. My boss, a friendly and energetic 25-year-old woman, greets me warmly. She started working at the cafe over 2 years ago, and now runs it with confidence and skill. She patiently shows me how to prepare coffee, wash dishes, and serve customers. Although I only remember about 20% of what she explains, she allows me to practice, gently correcting me when I make mistakes. By the end of my first day, I'm exhausted but happy that I've started something new. The next day at school, one of my classmates asks an important question. Sometimes, when I speak, I'm unsure if my grammar is correct. How can I learn grammar effectively? Our teacher smiles and says, that's a great question. There are 2 types of learners: those who need English for speaking and those who need it to pass exams. If your goal is to speak fluently, you don't need to focus too much on grammar rules. Think about how you learned your native language. It was natural, without studying grammar. You can do the same for English by immersing yourself in the language. The best way is to read a lot, as books use proper grammar, and you'll absorb the rules and context. Shadowing is another excellent technique, where you copy sentences with correct grammar. This helps you practice naturally, without memorizing rules. For students preparing for exams, the approach is different. You'll need to focus on the specific grammar required for the test. Practice with past exam papers if possible. Familiarize yourself with the structure and format of the exam, and only take the test when you're consistently scoring well in your practice. The class listens attentively. The student who asked the question replies, "Thank you. This is good news for me. I want to speak English well, not pass an exam. I'm glad I don't need to study grammar intensively. I enjoy reading, so I'll focus on learning grammar through books." After the lesson, I decided to explore the website Grammar in Levels, which the teacher recommended. It's a great resource. The site organizes grammar rules into 3 levels: 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 words, with clear examples for each. Later that afternoon, I returned to the cafe for my second day of training. I feel more confident and can handle many tasks on my own, but my boss is always there to assist me when needed. I realize that my job is not only a good learning experience, but also an opportunity to practice English while interacting with customers. The lesson I take away is simple yet powerful: to improve grammar, read regularly, and learn naturally. How I test my English. It's Monday again, and I'm back at school. Our teacher begins the lesson by asking everyone what they did over the weekend. When it's my turn, I share that I worked on Saturday and am getting better at my job. I also mention how happy I feel when I get to talk to customers in English. As I'm speaking, one of my classmates interrupts with a curious question. "What happened to your voice? You sound so different from last week. Your pronunciation has improved a lot." I smile and reply, "Thank you." On Saturday evening, after work, I practiced shadowing. I spent the whole Sunday trying to mimic native speakers. I know it's not perfect yet, but I can already hear a big improvement. Our teacher then asks if anyone else tried shadowing over the weekend. 3 students raise their hands, including a student from South Korea, who shares that he really likes this technique. Another student says she tried it but stopped after 5 minutes because her mouth started hurting, and she found it hard to keep up with the fast recordings. The teacher encourages her, saying, "If your mouth hurts after just a few minutes, that means you're doing it correctly." Shadowing trains the muscles in your mouth, much like working out at the gym trains your body. The more you practice, the stronger these muscles will become. Take breaks if needed, and gradually increase the time you practice. Shadowing not only improves pronunciation, but also helps with intonation, rhythm, and connecting words naturally. If the recording feels too fast, just repeat the first or last word of the sentence. With time, you'll be able to repeat more. I nod in agreement, adding, "That's exactly what happened to me." At first, I struggled, but by Sunday evening, it was much easier to repeat what I heard. I then asked our teacher about the website, Grammar and Levels, which I had explored over the weekend. I like the website, but I don't know which level is right for me because I don't know how many words I know in English. The teacher turns to the class, asking if anyone knows how many English words they've learned. It turns out that nobody does. We all know we're intermediate level students, but we're unsure of our vocabulary size. Our teacher explains, there's a website called testlanguages.com, where you can take a simple 2-step test to find out how many words you know. It's a great way to track your progress. You can even retake the test every month to see how much you've improved. Excited, I immediately open the website on my phone and take the test. I discover that I know 2,100 English words. Most of my classmates know between 2,000 and 2,200 words. But Monica and the boy from South Korea stand out with 2,500 words each. Our teacher smiles and says, based on your results, those of you who know between 2,000 and 3,000 words should start with grammar in level 3. It's tailored for your level and will help you improve faster. I leave the class feeling motivated. Testing my progress has given me a clear picture of where I stand and what I need to work on next. How I handle mistakes. On Tuesday, during our class, one of my classmates asks the teacher an interesting question. She says, "I want to practice speaking with people around me, but I'm afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me with this?" Our teacher smiles and replies, "Mistakes are a very important and interesting topic. There are many opinions about them, but let me share what I think works best. I've learned several languages myself, so I have experience with this. For example, I'm currently learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes. Do you know why? Because making mistakes isn't my main concern. My main goal is to express my ideas clearly. Mistakes are just part of the process." She continues, "Think about how you learned your native language. As children, we all made a lot of mistakes, but we didn't care. A 2-year-old child speaks with many errors, but by the time they're 3 or 4, they make fewer mistakes and speak much better. The same principle applies to learning English. Right now, most of you know about 2,000 words in English, which is a strong foundation. It's completely okay to make mistakes because they're part of your journey to becoming fluent." The teacher pauses for a moment and then adds, "If you want to reach a higher level in English, you must be willing to make mistakes. Perfection doesn't happen immediately. It comes with practice. Think of learning a language like learning to play a musical instrument. At first, you won't play perfectly. You'll make mistakes, but with time and practice, you improve. The same is true for speaking English." She also suggests some practical tips. To make fewer mistakes, focus on reading a lot and practicing shadowing. Reading aloud helps improve your pronunciation and reduces errors in real conversations. Shadowing trains your speaking muscles and improves your confidence. But remember, when you're speaking, your goal is to communicate ideas, not to be perfect. Grammar and vocabulary can be improved through other activities. Our teacher concludes by saying, even famous people, company leaders, And politicians make mistakes when they speak, but they don't let it stop them. They focus on sharing their message. You should do the same. Care more about expressing your ideas and less about being perfect. Over time, your mistakes will naturally decrease. The girl smiles and says, "Thank you. That makes a lot of sense." I find myself agreeing with the teacher's advice. It's a relief to know that mistakes are a normal part of learning and that I can use them to improve. How I remember words. Have you ever learned a new word only to forget it just minutes later? Or wondered why it's so hard to remember certain words, even after checking them in the dictionary? You're not alone. This happens to everyone, even to the best language learners. So, how can you make sure those words stick in your memory? Let's dive into how we can remember words better, with some easy tips and tricks that really work. On Wednesday, I go to school, and during the lesson, one of my classmates shares her experience. "I've started reading more, and I feel my grammar is getting better," she says. "But I have a problem. When I find a new word, I check it in the dictionary, but later, I forget it. I have to look it up again. How can I remember it better?" Our teacher smiles and explains, "That's a great question. It's normal not to remember a new word right away. Usually, it takes several times before it sticks. You may need to see a word 5 times, or even 10 or 15 times for some tricky words, like verbs, before you remember them. There's a process that happens when you learn a new word, and it goes through 5 important phases." She continues, "The first phase is when you see a word for the first time and don't know what it means. You check the dictionary. The second phase is when you see the word again. You remember you saw it before, but you still don't know its meaning, so you check the dictionary again. The third phase happens when you can almost guess what the word means, but you're not sure. You might know it's a noun or a verb, but you're not sure exactly what it means. The fourth phase is when you know what the word means when you see it, but you still can't use it in conversation. This is called passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is when you can use the word in conversation without hesitation. That's when it's part of your active vocabulary. Do you see now why it's not easy to remember a word just by looking at it once?" she asks. You need to let the word go through all 5 phases before it becomes part of your vocabulary. Don't worry if it takes time. Celebrate every step forward, even if you don't remember the word perfectly. Every time you move from one phase to the next, you're getting closer to using the word in everyday conversations. I think about it for a moment and say, I didn't know about these phases before, but now it makes sense. I often forget a word right after looking it up. I used to feel bad about it, but now I realize it's okay. I just need to see the word a few more times before I can use it. After school, I go to football practice. Our coach tells us there's a match on Saturday against another school from Cambridge. He asks me to play for the school team, and I feel so excited. I can't wait for the game. Motivational ending and call to action. Remember, learning a new word is a process, and it's okay to take your time. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Keep moving forward, even if mistakes happen. With every step, you're improving and getting closer to your goal. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe to get more tips on learning English. Together, we can make this journey easier and more fun. Keep learning, keep growing, and never stop improving.